Hello and welcome to IndieSider, where we combine Let's Plays of indie games with developer interviews. My name is Ken Gagne, and this week I'm playing the Nightmare Cooperative, released July 16, 2014 via Steam and Humble Bundle by Lucky Frame for Mac, Windows, and Linux. It is a strategy roguelike game that you're about to see. Let's go through the tutorial, which is under Options, and play tutorial. Now I do have some local data here that I will not be erasing because I've unlocked some stuff that I'm proud of. So you might be seeing some things that you wouldn't see when you first start the game. But here is the Nightmare Cooperative. You are from the local village and you are trying to bring back some gold to stimulate the local economy or something of the sort. So here I can move up and down to avoid this enemy, and when I attack him by moving into him, you see that we both took 1 point of damage and I died because I only have 1 point of damage, as you can see up here. So I need to go get that heart potion, and now I have 2 points. Now I can just walk into him, and my second strike kills him. So basically I attack first, then he attacks. So here, again, 1 point of damage only, but there are no health potions. So I'm going to pick up a power potion, which allows me to use my special ability, which is to throw an arrow, or fire an arrow, from afar. So my missile attack can hurt him without me getting hurt back. Ta-da! And now, on some levels, you'll find these sleeping humans, and if you touch them, they join your party. But here's the trick, is that this is where the cooperative aspect moves in. You can only move your group collectively. You can't move them separately. So if I touch this treasure chest, every treasure chest spawns a monster. So there's the monster shell, I got some gold out of that, and there's the monster. So now I want to escape into the stairwell, which leads to the next level. And that's the whole tutorial. I'm now starting a game. It goes right into the game if it wasn't clear about that transition. So you see the number 3 here, that means that I'll spawn 3 enemies when I open this chest. And that's a little tip about this game. There's a lot of stuff it doesn't tell you, but you can mouse over anything and it will tell you what you need to know. So for example, this monster, you can infer from this description that he will only move if you try to get his gold. So when I'm all the way over here, he's not going to come attack me. These are action potions, health potions, we just learned about those, an enemy shell, and each character has a special ability that if you mouse over, it'll tell you what they do. Breaks through the walls around him, walks through walls, so these two characters are pretty similar. You probably won't find these on your first playthrough. Same thing over here, you can get those descriptions over there. And also a spawn counter, so after 19 moves, whether or not I open a chest, there will be a new enemy. So let's walk around a bit. We're just trying to get to the exit. That is your ultimate goal. At least one of you has to make it. And now that I'm near the exit, I'm just going to go ahead and open some chests. Got 3 gold out of that. Another 1 gold out of that. And that way I can make it to the exit without encountering many of the monsters because I was already right next to it. So now in this level you can see there are 2 sleeping characters. There's a mage who attacks diagonally at a distance, and an ice mage who shoots ice diagonally. So they're both diagonal, but I can only wake up one. As soon as I touch one, the other will disappear. So I'm going to move right, which will move both my Astral Walker and my Miner to the right, to wake up the mage, and the ice mage will disappear. Boof! So now, as you can see, he attacks diagonally, so if I push spacebar right now, I will attack this flame tower. But pushing spacebar activates the special ability for all of my characters. You can see that right now. Well, the mage and the Astral Walker, their blue potions are blinking, which means they'll use up a special ability. The Miner won't actually do anything, because his is very specific to being able to break down walls. But you can't activate just one character special ability. Whoops. There. I was able to kill him without dying. Got a health potion, an action potion. Now I'm going to try to destroy this tower. And I had to open a chest because in the course of walking into the monster, my Miner walked into the chest. I'm going to open that one too. And made it. Now here are some new mechanics. You have artifacts, the Staff of Life. Bump attack instantly kills monster. First attack on each level only. Chest Talisman. Open a chest without spawning a monster. First chest on each level only. These are two of my favorite artifacts, but each character can carry only one, and once they pick one up, they can't drop it. So you have to think about what ability you want each character to have. I'm going to try to get both of these. Uh-oh. Lots of monsters showing up. Now see, if I push down for my miner to attack this vaguely clever patrol guard, then my mage will also walk into the pool of acid, which ain't so great. So I'm actually going to move up right now, and then right, so that everybody gets a new health potion, because whoever picks it up, it applies to everybody. So my Astral Walker already has full health, but my mage and my miner will go up in health. Ta-da! And now my Ice Mage can attack the vaguely clever patrol guard. But also my Astral Walker can walk through walls. But only for so many times before he gets stuck in the wall. Now my miner died, but as long as one character makes it to the stairwell, that's okay. So this is level C4, the Catacombs 4. There are 4 worlds, each with 4 stages, so 16 total, and the 4th area of each world has a hidden or a special treasure. This is the Crown of Doom, and to collect it over these spikes, you have to push this button, which will make the spikes recede. So I'm going to try to wake up either the ninja or the Ice Mage, probably the ninja. Now these towers are pretty easy to defeat because they only attack like 1 every 4 turns. So as long as you're out of their path during their turn, you're fine. Oops. Okay, I got that. It spawned 3 enemies. Whoops. There. And let's open one on the way out, just to be fun. There is actually an achievement for finishing the game with less than 40 gold, so if you can avoid gold, you get an achievement for that. So now we're in an ice level. Fundamentally, the level doesn't work any different from the others. Now I'm going to use my special ability to make my ninja move through the enemy, so he shows up there, right next to the staircase. But also my mage attacked this guy, and now this guy can walk through walls. One of the things I'm learning is that you should not be too restrictive about when you use your special ability. Did my ninja make it? I kind of lost track of him for a second there. There are always enough blue potions to get back your special ability, so use them when you can. What did happen to my ninja? Oh well. I get a new ally on this level, either a priest, I haven't really figured out how it is that he heals people, and the archer. So I'm going to go with the archer. Pushing up will open a treasure chest and spawn new enemies. Now these monsters are new. They leave an ice trail behind you, and when you hit ice, you slide right across it, so you actually move farther than you wanted to. Uh-oh. There we go. The most number of characters you can have in your party is 4, as you might infer from the number of slots on the side here. Wow. So here are some new artifacts, the Staff of Life, and Potion Pennant. 1 extra max potion, 1 fewer max health. I don't like that power-up. I like having as much health as possible. Now you notice what I opened this chest and no enemies spawn. That's because my Astral Walker has the chest talisman. First chest he opens spawns no monsters. Yay for him. There, he made it. Now also, any potions I pick up after somebody's left the staircase, that person won't get the benefits of more health or more magic potions. However, you do have the guarantee that you will make it to the next level, because at least one person has survived that long. There. Whoops. I didn't even notice my Astral Walker going through the walls there. Uh-oh, he might not make it. Yep. He was with me from the beginning, too. That's a shame. Oh, but there's a new one. Hey. I guess he couldn't stay away. Can't keep a good Astral Walker down. Now again, 4th area of the ice, and you'll have the opportunity to pick up the Ice World treasure, Diamond of Corruption. Oh, but see, now I can't get across there because there's a chest in the way and a wall. So I need to go all the way around. And there are a lot of enemies. I don't think my Ice Mage is going to last much longer. In fact, I might not last much longer. Uh-oh. What's this guy? Oh. Oh, that's because I had the Staff of Life. That was my first bump attack of the level, and it killed a guy. And now my Astral Walker's probably going to die again, even though I just rescued him. Oh. Okay, so I didn't get the Diamond of Corruption. But I am halfway through the game, and I'm now in Tech World. I don't quite know what's so tech about it. Oh, pardon me. So, this button will turn off the flame towers briefly. You'll notice that there are no... Whoops. And that's it. Those monsters, it went pretty quickly, but those were swap soldiers, I think their names, something like that. Where if you cross their path, you immediately swap places with them, which can really throw off your trajectory, but it can also be used as a shortcut to get somewhere. So let's play this game again, but now talking with one of the developers. I'll move a little bit more quickly this time with less tutorial, so you can see me either do really well or do really poorly. I've only beaten the game once. Let me show you my scores so far. So I finished it once, 71 goals, 618 turns. Over the course of the game I had 7 different party members. I ultimately finished it with the mage. I think it was the mage. Anyway, but that's, you can tell slightly by the discoveries. So these are all the different characters and what their strengths are. I haven't seen the barbarian in a while. And sometimes they're unlockables, and it tells you how to get them. Finish the game with the barbarian, finish the game with less than 40 gold, and you get these new characters. I don't think the miner was open when I first played this game. I know the Astral Walker was not. And then these are some of the other talismans or artifacts that I've discovered. The Vampire Fangs is one of my favorites. Get 1 heart after first kill of each level. So you kill a bad guy, you get something out of it. And here are the many monsters, some of which have slow-acting poison. I haven't figured out how to undo that or cure it. I wish there was some sort of a cure. And this guy is weird. The friendly chases after you, a bit of a bully. There's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor to these descriptions, like the Astral Walker. Struggles against culturally ingrained anti-astral prejudice. What's up with that? Overcoming reservations about the wisdom of the council. She feels comfortable here. Kind of annoying. 13th generation martial arts practitioner. The 14th awaits at home. Aw. Etc. Alright, so let's bring on some developer for interview. So joining me today is Mr. Yann Seznec of Lucky Frame Limited, all the way from Edinburgh, Scotland. So I need to start off by saying that I have been playing Nightmare Cooperative, having a great time, beautiful game, and I hate it so much because every time I die, it makes me want to start over and do better, and I've lost hours to this game, and I can't remember the last time I played a game that made me want to just keep going.
God damn it, that's totally not what we wanted to do. Yeah, well, yes, that makes me feel very good. That's kind of precisely our goal with, I think, this game.
And who is we?
So there's 3 of us in my frame. There's me and Jonathan and Sean. Jonathan does all the coding and most of the sort of game design side of things. This is the Nightmare Cooperative is sort of the end result of a early prototype that he made. Sean is our artist, designer, all the visual stuff, and I do all the sound and music, and I try to manage things and kind of do all the press and marketing and that side of things too.
So I have a lot of questions about what sort of influences you had in making this game, because I see a lot of elements from a lot of other games that I've played, both computer games and even some board games, and they all mesh together really well, but I want to know, like, where did you draw your inspiration for the Nightmare Cooperative?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think you've slightly touched on a bunch of them already. Certainly, you know, I'm slightly hesitant in some ways to talk about it in terms of being a roguelike, but of course it is a roguelike. I'm only hesitant because it's a term that can mean a lot nowadays, and people can kind of love it or hate it. But so I think probably the top sort of video game influences are things like 868 Hack, which is relatively well known, but in many ways it's actually more similar to Zaga 33. That kind of turn-based grid level space, kind of spaced out in terms of levels. Yeah, that type of game I think is really what led us to the Nightmare Cooperative. Our twists on it are, that you control a bunch of characters all at once. That it's extremely difficult, which I think maybe sort of Zaga 33 and 868 Hack have a little bit of as well. And that each of your characters can have different powers, which comes from, I guess, a dungeon crawler tradition, that kind of thing. But you're also completely right that there's a lot of board game influence, which is something that certainly Jonathan and I are really, really into. Sort of strategy board games. I don't even know where to begin. I guess the most recent one I've been enjoying a lot is Agricola, which I'm not sure how much of that, in terms of game design, is reflected in Nightmare Cooperative. So I think that's where a lot of the influences are.
Now, you mentioned some of the old dungeon crawlers, and I see some of that in the animation style, the way the characters are relatively static as they move from tile to tile, and then they have a different frame of animation for their special attack. Kind of reminds me of the old SSI gold box games like Pools of Radiance, or even the old Ultima games.
Yeah, I think certainly Sean is definitely coming from that world of things. There's also that comes from a very sort of practical design considerations that need to be taken into consideration. So just the idea that you do really need to show people when a power is available, and I think that's a kind of natural design choice that's been made for a few decades now, that so something needs to change with your character and you need to make something look active when before it was passive in some way. So I think when you're designing a game like this, you end up forcing yourself to make the same decisions that people made in previous similar types of games. And it's really exciting because we can look back at those as influences and see what they did and see, okay, how can we borrow little elements of that? And it's also it's a nice feedback when you're playing the game to make a movement and then see, oh wait, now my archer can shoot, but my miner doesn't have anything he can mine. So should I do one more move or should I wait? It's just kind of a nice. It adds to the feel of the game, I think.
Now, you said that this game is being described as a roguelike, but that's a term that I have discovered has a lot of different meanings. For example, in the most recent episode of this show, I was playing a twin-stick shooter like Robotron, which some people called roguelike. So what in your definition constitutes a roguelike?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's it's such a weird argument, this whole thing, because more and more games have been getting described like roguelikes. And I think it's funny because I feel like in a lot of ways what we should actually be saying is that certain games share sort of have certain rogue-esque qualities, which so like a twin-stick shooter, I can imagine that probably the roguelike element of that was that the levels were randomly generated, or that that there was a sort of a permadeath system so that you started from the very beginning of the game every time. And both of those certainly are what I think of as very important elements of what I would call roguelike design. So in which case you have games like Don't Starve, which is okay, totally a roguelike because you're starting from scratch every single time and you're building stuff with what's around you and the levels are totally randomly generated. But then there's a whole other kind of, there are a number of other design choices that people can take or not that could make something defined as roguelike. I think some people have twigged in terms of the Nightmare Cooperative that it's very turn-based. You can literally walk away from the game in between turns and come back an hour later, and so it's super contemplative, which I think is what leads it to that board game feel. And in some people have twigged that that's in some ways even maybe perhaps more purist roguelike. Not that we care, but I think in some ways that is what the original rogue-esque games were. Was that super turn-based thing. So I think we are, in terms of Nightmare Cooperative, the things that make it a roguelike are that all the levels are randomly generated, so it's different every time you play. There's sort of chapters in terms of the levels. It's permadeath, so that if you lose all your characters, you're dead, and that's your score, and you start over from the beginning again. And what have I missed? I probably missed some other element of it that makes it roguelike too, but there you go.
Well, as you may have inferred from my reference to Pools of Radiance, I grew up on these kinds of games, and I was playing the original Rogue, 30 years ago.
Oh wow!
And this game seems to have a lot of the similar elements. One that would be missing would be maybe the fog of war, where you can see that there might be a room somewhere, but you don't know what is in it or what its outline might be until you actually get there. And you might say that Nightmare Cooperative has that in the sense that you're going from room to room and you don't know what's there until you get there.
Yeah, that's it. That's an interesting thing. It's really interesting. We played around with it in a couple different types of designs that we were like early prototypes. Yeah, and then instead we hit on this kind of sort of stairwell level system. So the idea being you don't know what's in the next level. There's interesting other things we played around with as well. We played around with the 868 hack style. If you play 868 hack, when you get to the end of a level, the next level is generated, but all of the enemies that were on the level you were just playing are superimposed on the next level as well. So you have this amazing thing where you kind of know what's coming up, but there could be all sorts of other stuff as well. So that's an interesting middle ground, and that's an interesting other extreme, and we sort of picked a middle ground in between the two. And part of that is to do with screen constraints and technical stuff, but ultimately it's a bit of one of the design things that we decided to move away from the original Rogue style.
So how long did the development of this game take?
I think Jonathan made the first. So Jonathan made a really kind of wonderfully rough prototype that you can actually still play on his itch page. I think it's linked from our website. That was in I think February, something like that. We sort of spent a few days on it. I made some music for it, and Sean kind of tweaked some graphics for it and stuff. But we basically mostly just used prototype graphics. And so yeah, once we had made that, we kind of thought, okay, well, let's turn this into a game. So I guess that's 5 or 6 months ago in total.
Now, when I was describing this game to a friend of mine and how it worked, before I'd even showed it to him, he assumed that this is something I was playing on my iPad. And Lucky Frame has made other iOS games like Wave Trip and Bad Hotel, but this game is for Mac, PC, and Linux. How did you choose to release it on those platforms and not mobile?
Well, we are working on the mobile version as well, so it's not going to be exclusively Mac and PC. The reason we went first on Mac and PC is, well, there's a number of reasons. Partially because I think in some ways it's easier to release first on PC, from a developer standpoint. You don't have to worry about as much about different types of devices and passing submissions from Apple, or less of a concern with Android, but still somewhat of a concern. I guess the devices thing is more of a concern with Android, and passing submission is more of a concern with Apple. Also, I think if you release a game first on mobile, it can be quite hard to release then, to follow up that release with a PC release. That we certainly found that with Bad Hotel. And yeah, so there were just a number of concerns. And also when you're testing, it's so much easier to test a PC version, because you can just, we're building it in Unity or whatever, but you can just hit build and play it, and you can play it for as long as you want. And when you're building it for specialized mobile devices, you have to build it on a device, you have to then load it, install it on the device, and it just adds a kind of step between the making of things and testing of things. So since we knew we were going to be testing on PC and building it on PC first, we just thought we'd release it first on PC and then work out all the little small changes we have to make to release it on mobile.
What challenges have you found going from mobile to desktop? Does the game gain a sort of a stigma of being a casual game that people then don't want to pay bigger bucks for to play on a desktop?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one, really. I mean, it's so funny. It doesn't matter how much extra effort you put into making the PC version. You can change all sorts of things, and then people will just be like, "Oh, I saw this on iPad. It's just a stupid port," and it's like, it's so weird. There's this stigma is absolutely the word. There is definitely a stigma. Whereas to me, I kind of I get excited when I see a game that has been on mobile released on PC, because I'm like, oh, nice, now I'll actually be able to enjoy this game. That's maybe a little bit flippant because obviously they're great mobile games, but in a lot of ways it's nicer to play on a computer still, I think. So yeah, I think there is a big stigma, and then also it's just like, I think it's much harder to translate user interface stuff. It's much harder to go from touchscreens to PC than from PC to touchscreens, because when you're designing something primarily for mobile, you automatically think about swipes and pinch to zoom and like flip scroll and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you're designing for PC, you're instantly thinking about clicks and mouse or mouse clicks and keyboard taps, and those kinds of things translate quite easily into touchscreen. Whereas vice versa, it's like it's a little bit harder, I think.
Do you have a release date in mind for the mobile version of this game?
No release date precisely in mind, but we're working on it quite literally as we speak, so it shouldn't be too long.
Would you say 2014?
Oh yeah, definitely 2014. Definitely.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit more about the gameplay itself. I've developed a couple of strategies that over my many hours of play. One is that when I have a large party, I just try to get one of them to the staircase, and then I let the rest of the party explore the room a bit more. So that way if they die, I at least have one person who's making it to the next level. However, the downside to that approach is that I'm splitting up my party, and the party members that remain behind are weaker for it, and thus they're less likely to make it to the next level.
Yeah, there's also another downside to that, which you can just about get over. But if picking up potions and hearts applies to everybody in your party who is alive, who is still in the room. So if you have if all of your party need health, for example, and you get one person to the exit and then pick up the health, that character doesn't get the heart. So it does help to keep everybody on the level while you get because every level has one heart and 2 potions, right? So oh man, I'm giving away too much info here. This should just be for somebody's future Wikipedia article. But anyway, I'm just giving away a little tidbit of info of trivia there. And if you get one character to the exit before those are picked up, then they don't have the opportunity of getting them. So in some ways, there's an advantage to keeping all of the characters that you have in the same level for a little while. But yeah, you're right, because then it can be, almost every character is useful in actually I'd say pretty much every character has a usefulness that can be lost if they exit the level too early.
Do you have a favorite character?
It's so funny, it changes constantly, and I think all three of us, while we were developing it, it was a constant discussion, because I don't know, have you unlocked any of the extra characters? I don't know which ones I should tell you about, because there are 3 or 4, I don't remember, 4 I think that come locked with the game.
I have the Astral Walker and the Miner at the least.
Okay, so you finished the game.
Yes.
Oh wow, okay, well done. And the Miner, that's from one of the treasures. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so yeah, you've done all right actually. The Miner is a really interesting one actually, because he doesn't, it's so easy to prioritize attack specials, like the warrior and the archer and the mage and stuff. But actually in the end game, particularly towards the last world, the Miner can be really, really, really exciting or really useful in terms of tunneling through to the exit, because the enemies aren't expecting, the monsters are obviously expecting the walls to stay there, and so their paths are being done accordingly. But if you can use several Miner specials in a row, you can actually get to the exit really quickly, which is kind of the primary concern at the end of the game. So I really like that.
Speaking of monsters, is there any way to counteract the poison in the desert world?
Oh man, should I be giving away this info? Yes.
Okay, you don't have to tell me what it is, I'll figure it out, but it's good to know.
Yes, there is. I'll leave it at that.
I haven't quite figured out the use for the priest yet. Maybe he has something to do with it. I'll look into that.
Now we're talking obscure trivia. I remember us discussing that as a thing, and whether so that's worth testing, because I don't actually remember. But there are ways around the poison. Yes.
I know. Speaking of all these different character types, what is with this game's sense of humor? It's incredibly dry and subtle.
Yeah, it's funny. It ties into a ridiculous Lucky Frame tradition of sort of terrible. It's sort of a mix of sort of socialist cynicism and dad humor. I think is probably the combo that marks out like the writing in a Lucky Frame game. Yeah, somehow. Well, so a lot of the backstory which is only really vaguely hinted about in the game is that these cooperative members have been recruited by the village council, and the village council has been is very corrupt and has been losing a lot of money and wasting the money on public works projects, some of which may include monuments to the previous cooperative members. And they're in a sort of a hole in terms of the interest they have to pay on the loans, and so they need gold, and so they're recruiting members to go in and become a part of the Nightmare Cooperative and bring back gold for the village, with the sort of subtext being that you'll go through and you'll lose all sorts of friends, and you'll see all sorts of horrible things, and you'll barely make it out alive, and then the village council will fritter your money away on pointless vanity projects. And I think I really like Scotland, and I really like living in Edinburgh. But Edinburgh is a city that has a very long history of extremely wasteful public spending and borderline, well, we could definitely say public mismanagement of funds. So I think I certainly took a fair amount of inspiration from my adopted hometown.
Well, I hope that the game is well received in your adopted hometown.
Well, the city council, as far as I know, are unaware of this game. So.
So what is the future of the Nightmare Cooperative? As far as amount of time I've spent playing it, I've definitely gotten my money's worth when I bought it from Steam, but at the same time, 16 levels might be considered fairly short. If you're good at this game, you might be able to finish it in only 20 minutes. So do you think there might be additional features or levels or bug fixes coming out soon?
Man, I'd love to see a 20-minute speedrun. Yes. So yeah, it's at the moment it's definitely tuned to be 16 levels that are very hard, and we're kind of hoping that the majority of players take quite a while to figure out how to beat it. But that isn't really totally enough for us. I think at the moment we're concentrating pretty strongly on taking the game as it stands and making a mobile version. But from there, what we want to do is add content, for one thing. So we have a bunch of ideas for new, particularly character types, and some of the passive pickups, like the vampire fangs and stuff like that. We have a few other ones that we want to put in. But the other thing we've been talking about, and we really want to do, we're hoping to do after the mobile version, is a puzzle mode. So in addition to having the random gen version of the game as it exists now, there would also be designed puzzle levels or series of levels that we would make, and then there would be high score lists on them. So we could then design a kind of a version of the game that everybody is playing that's identical for everyone. And I think that would give it a lot of depth, because we could then just make as many levels as people want to play, and then people can go back and try to beat their scores on them.
And maybe even offer a level creator for fan-edited content.
Yeah. I mean, that's a thing we've done. We did that with Wave Trip, and it was loads of fun. And I'd really like to do it with this. I mean, even if it's just like, I can't imagine us making a particularly user-friendly level creator, but I mean, maybe. It's just like the thing with level creators is that's what takes time, right? Is designing it so that anybody can use it easily. I really like the idea of just making available the level creator that we're going to use to make the levels, and then just have people be able to use our own programming system basically to make levels. So yeah, that's something that we've thought about and talked about. I'm not sure how we would implement it, but I'd really like to, yeah.
Well, it sounds like I'll be playing this game for some time to come then. Excellent.
I hope so. I'm really glad to hear that you keep going back to it. What's your high score?
Oh gosh, I think it's, I think my high score is somewhere around 700 turns and maybe 60 gold.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I mean, I was realizing today that I'm the last of the Lucky Frame trio to still have a high score on the global high scores list. It's kind of embarrassing. We're getting pushed off, and I'm just barely hanging on. In fact, as of this afternoon, I haven't checked in a few hours. Maybe somebody's beating me. It's a little bit a little bit ridiculous. That was with 90. Yeah, every time I try to push it, like, again, today, I've had 3 of these games in the past couple of days where I've tried to push it and get a few more, and I die on the last level. So, yeah.
Well, what's embarrassing to me is that I think my first game after I beat it, I started over to try to do better, and I died on the first level.
That's classic, though, isn't it? That's like
Oh, well. Well, thank you so much for your time, Yann. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for giving us this inside look at the Nightmare Cooperative. I'm obviously having a great time playing with it, and I hope other people can see that in this video and check it out.
My pleasure. It's really good to be here. Thanks so much, Ken.
All right, talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.